Maybe more like a behind.
Check.
Check, check.
Jazzy
So
is on.
Check,
that
check.
was the moment to
That
spill
works.
out all the...
Spill the beans.
No. Secrets coming out.
Secrets coming out. What is everybody's nickname, right?
Oh yeah,
It's just-
yeah.
I mean, we have one here, GooseBreeder, so
Yeah.
what's your...
Yeah, unfortunately my nickname is German, so nobody gets it.
Yeah, that's not a reason.
Die Jule, Die Jule. So people in Counter-Strike, they see me and they think, why is Jule dying or something? But it just really means die Julia, the Julia. So that's how exciting it is. But the story behind that, when I started playing Counter-Strike and Unreal Tournament and tried to play for World Cyber Games points, I told my grandfather about that and I asked him what a cool nickname was, and my grandfather said, well, your name's pretty cool, so why don't you go with your name? And his nickname for me was Jule, a German nickname for Julia. And so I chose the nickname that my grandfather gave me. Super, like, wow, that's an exciting...
It's a cute story.
And Jazzy?
Jazzy's already my nickname, so it's not my real name.
Okay.
But it's the one and only Jazzy Tan,
Yeah.
right? Don't think you've seen anyone else. It's already my nickname, so.
Okay, that was just
Warm-up
questions. Yeah, are we live? Wonderful. So, yeah, you see different faces. We had some substitutes, so that's esports. So you
Gotta
always
adapt.
change everybody. And I mean, I talked about that the whole conference, like League of Legends, changing everybody all the time. And we did it as well. So, yeah, welcome to our final panel, to the panel about GG for All. From the idea, not entirely about GG for All, but what they are doing and yeah, what impact it has. And they are the topics like we are talking about some parts about the critical concerns, about the ethical challenge before, like the mental health issue, well-being, removing barriers, the environmental impact, and all of those. But before that, just starting out to give a short introduction, we have here Mounira from Counterlogic Gaming Red. So I had CLG in mind.
It's CLG Red,
Yeah.
but that's the long version.
Yeah,
of
I
it.
forgot the
What
long
does
part.
Fnatic stand for? Just
Where's Peter?
kindness.
It was a good answer. Good answer.
I always wanted to know if that was an acronym of sorts. No, it isn't. Doesn't mean anything.
Acronym for kindness.
Passion and kindness. Oh, okay.
Okay,
Didn't know that.
learned something new. Great. So already one mission achieved. Yeah, Julia, also Die Jule.
Die Jule.
Um,
What a silly name.
what a silly name, yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing corporate responsibility at the ESL Faceit Group, and it's a huge honor to be doing something that is meaningful and has a purpose. And you can see that people who used to be just gamers, that they can later on survive in the industry and fulfill another purpose after their esports lifespan is over, so to say. Because I had a very short career in 2003 and 2004, and then retired right after and started working in the industry.
And besides that, my longest esports friend for now nearly 20 years.
Yeah, you're really one of my longest esports friends. Michael, you also know Michael Henneböhl, and we did LAN parties together, but you and I together, I think in an IRC chat, we both had the idea that Germany should have its own written esports, print esports magazine. So we both together, and I'm so proud of that, started eMag, and that was Germany's first esports website and magazine for actual journalism, and long before Read More was founded. So we're really the dinosaurs.
Yeah, that seems like that. Yeah, Jazzy, the real Jazzy Tan.
Yes, and I'm a substitute, one of the substitute, just like Toby for today. It's me again, you know, I was here yesterday, and compared to Julia, obviously Mounira, and also Toby, I am a esports baby. You know, I'm only less than a year, whereas they've been at it for more than a decade, right? So I feel like an imposter being on this panel, but bear with me. But my credibility, as little as it is I'm a recruiter in ESL EFG Group together with Julia.
I'm not a recruiter though.
She's not a recruiter, yes. She's in HR. She helps us a lot with all these very cool initiatives which we want to share with you guys. But I am the one bringing people into our organization, which is growing by the day.
You're the backbone of APJ.
Yeah.
So if anybody out there in APJ wants a job in esports, it's Jazzy Tan,
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen.
Shameless plug, promotion on Twitch. Reach out to us, you know, if you're keen on a career, and then we can talk. So that's me.
Awesome. Talk with her. Yeah, so let's get into it. So the whole conference was about sustainability, and it's something where, from my HR background, it's like common knowledge to have mixed teams. They are better in everything, and we have in esports the idea or the knowledge that there is no physical or not a big physical difference between female and male players, so we still struggle with that.
Men and women.
I'm German, so sorry for all bad translations. Men and women. Better? No, women and men. Better.
I give you
Oh.
that.
Go easy on
Making
you.
him sweat right now.
I'm just a substitute.
Same,
Don't burn
same.
me.
Go
Don't
easy on
burn
us.
me.
Go easy on us.
Okay, then a hard question.
Oh no, I brought this on myself.
Yeah, but no, that's something where we struggle with that for a long time, and we see movements and Valorant Game Changers had a tournament and all, but the ultimate goal is mixed teams. And you see, we talked before like 5 minutes in the preparation, but you already started about Mounira. What is the path to get there, to get to mixed teams?
I think it's a lot of stepping stones. So I think I try to think like big picture, because I think with the whole getting women to the point where they can play like tier 1, I think it takes time, and I think that like some people are maybe a little bit impatient where they think it can happen like in a year or two. I think if you think about just esports in general, like 15 years ago, gaming was a lot different, even for men. I think like when I remember when I was gaming, when I was in high school, it was like not popular, and you wouldn't really go around bragging that you're playing like games. So I think the culture in itself within esports has changed dramatically, and it's pretty much exploded. Esports is like really big now. Like even if people tell their parents like 10 years ago versus now, like maybe you're having an argument with your mom and dad, and now your mom and dad are probably super stoked for you or something like that. I think like when you think about it in general, esports itself has changed so much. And I think when you bring in the whole, like talking about, I guess, women within esports, I think we're even further behind, because I mean, in general, just growing up as like a woman, you're typically not introduced into things like gaming. And I think it's kind of like if you think about like sports, like kids who get into sports or into MMA, whatever, typically do a little bit better than someone who got in when they're like 15 or not like 20 or something like that, right? So I think that like thinking about it that way and understanding that it takes a bit of time to develop the scene. And I think if you kind of think about it in another scenario where like right now, the initiative is really good because it's introducing women to esports, and right now the biggest problem is numbers. There's not a lot of women to begin with in the space, not even just in Counter-Strike, in the entire like esports space, there's typically a lot more men. And I think with a lot of these initiatives, it's introducing women to it. It's giving them role models, somebody to look up to. And when you see like more women in a space, more younger girls will look at that and think, oh, that's something I can do. And I think that's just like where things kind of make the biggest difference. Like I think right now, the younger generations are probably going to be the one doing where you'll start seeing the most like barriers being broken, like more women playing in like higher levels. So I think that honestly it's just time. I don't think there's anything really stopping like women when you put them like side by side. I don't think there's anything that's like so different that like if you put them together they couldn't like coexist. Like I play like FPLC, which is like a pug system, which is like at a higher level, and I play with like men at my level all the time, and I do just fine. Like I think I even do better than like a good chunk of them. So I don't think there's anything like setting us apart in terms of gender. I think it's more this, if you think about it in sheer numbers, and the way I like to think about this is when you think of regions, there's a lot of regions that do better than other regions. For example, North America does a little bit worse than Europe internationally. Other regions that don't get a lot of opportunities typically do worse than other regions. Like Europe is doing really well because there's just so many opportunities. Everything is based in Europe. And it makes sense that there's so many people playing CS in Europe. In North America, there's not a lot of opportunities. So even though like the scene in general in North America is a bit weaker, everybody left for Valorant because there's so many opportunities in Valorant. And I think that like when you take a step back and you think about it that way, it makes a lot of sense why women aren't doing as well as men. And I think it's just more numbers. Like if you had the same pool of players, I think then you could start thinking, okay, like what's setting them up? Why are they not there? But you're not even like at the point where the numbers are even close that you can even think about maybe there being differences within the gender that are setting them apart. So I think that right now, I don't think there is. And I think like right now the biggest topic is just getting the numbers to catch up. And I think that you could play mixed if you want, I guess, but you're not gonna have like women that are good enough to play at that level, simply just because you don't have a lot of like numbers to pull from. So if you took like a group of like 50 women to 5,000 men, you're not gonna find like, you know, your Kobe Bryant as easily in the pool of like 50 chicks. So I think that's the biggest thing. I know tons of talented women who could hang with mixed teams, but at the moment there's like such great initiative that like women want to play in these tournaments, that's the point, right? You want women to start participating. Even like my team, we play against men all the time. That's like the vast majority of our competition. And then when we go into like tournaments like all the GG for all, like the ESL Impact tournaments, that's where we play against like other women. But yeah, I think just to summarize, I think it's just like, I guess, a hill to climb. And I think understanding like realistically where we are right now, and right now, I think we have to combat the numbers, getting more women involved. When more women are involved, I think you're gonna start seeing more and more talent. And eventually, I do think you'll see women that are just as good as tier 1. And honestly, like, just to talk about how hard it is to be a tier 1 player in Counter-Strike, it is ridiculously like tough to be like the top like players in CS. Like my boyfriend is on like one of the top like 10 teams. So I like know how hard it is, and I know like what they do to like stay at that level and how skilled you have to be. And if you even just think about how hard it is for men to be at that level with how many options, how many players they have, I think just taking it into perspective and understanding how difficult it even is to be tier 1. Like, not your average Joe can just get on a computer and be better than like Navi or, you know what I mean? So I guess that's how I see things. I do see a world where we could be mixed, and I think that that is a good place to strive for. But also keeping in mind like where we are realistically, because I think when you be more realistic about it all, what needs to be tackled first, then I think we'll actually see like improvement, which right now I think that the scene is doing really well, and it's probably doing the best that I've like ever seen in CS. And that's because of like the consistent tournaments. And orgs want to be a part of like the consistency. So more women are sticking around because there's something like to stick around for. So yeah, I guess that's how I would answer it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really great summary of the whole issues we
It's
have.
it's very complex.
Yeah, so I mean, that's the theme of the conference now.
Yeah.
It's complicated.
Yeah, it's complicated.
But as you're saying as well, in the end, it's somewhat a numbers game, and we see it with other games that in some countries it's not played at all, and wonder no good player comes out of there. And at the same time, and that's something which is so important, Counter-Strike Tier 1 is hell.
It's such a difficult game. Like, I mean, I have a lot of respect for the players that can hang at that level. And I think, like, I mean, that's what's so rewarding about it. Like, not just anyone can be, like, that good. And the players who are very, like, special or different from, like, other people. I think that's just, like, what's so, like, fun, like, just to see how good they are at Counter-Strike when you're watching, like, the matches. So, yeah, I think.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And moving to you guys, girls.
I love this panel.
Not really. So, what are you doing to support this stream?
Thank you so much for summing this up. And
the TLDR for you.
TLDR.
Too long didn't read. Yeah, on Reddit.
Yeah, so in the future you can just go to minute blah 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 in this VOD and go to where Mounira started talking. That is where you need to start listening, because she's really summing up what the whole issue is about. Because if there's less 1% or less 3% of the whole grassroots player base women, how can you find the Kirby Bryant and the Kobina Bryant or
Kobina Bryant?
it's always I can't stop listening to you. You're doing such a great job explaining this in a nutshell. It's awesome, and I can not add a lot of things here about impact. Just that I'm ever so thankful that everybody followed our, like, now it seems to be like almost like a rallying cry, going out there and telling the world, okay, now we do ESL Impact, and we really mean it. Like, now the pandemic is over and we really mean it. We want to have a meaningful tournament globally for women, and it's truly global because we also have an Asia qualifier and so on and so forth, and we keep on growing it. The team behind it is amazing. Most people working at EFG on Impact are women. Women are making the decisions for ESL Impact, and they can internally go to the stakeholders and say, hey, Louvre governance team, can you go to the orgs and tell them what we're currently trying to achieve here. And that's actually what I'm trying to say, that we started this, but we couldn't be doing it on our own. I'm so grateful that the teams are investing themselves so heavily and taking on teams. Furia, they had a serious women team before we started with Impact, but then it impresses me how many teams followed, and they make they volunteer to commit to some goals, like really giving women in the org the actual structure that they need. You were talking about to play in the 1%, even in the normal pro league, where actually everybody could play if they wanted to, but where unfortunately only men are playing because of the issue you described. It is so hard to get up there, and if you didn't have any infrastructure, if you would just go, like, at your university, you are drum rolling, getting 4 more women friends, and now you start playing CSGO, how can you get to that level? So what we really need is the organizations to commit the same way CLG is committing, and all the things that you have, your performance coaching and your psychological support and all the knowledge about. We learned here at this conference, fortunately, this week, how important a good sleeping schedule is. If you don't have a proper sleeping schedule, then what? Hey, Ursula! So thank you for being here. She is preaching to the choir, but only here at ERN, and all the world out there needs to learn how important a training schedule is, a healthy training schedule is. And not because you want to stay mentally sane, but there is no higher performance without sleeping and eating and working out. And if you don't have that, you don't need to start with your in-game coach looking at, oh, you missed this shot and there you dropped the bomb and this was not correct or whatever. You don't have to go there if you don't have the proper infrastructure, people who help you to improve, and that is what you were also talking about. So really all I can add is thank you to all the teams that have invested together with us in impact and are making this possible, because there will never be a woman flagship or woman, what are you going to call this, the lighthouse, the flagship, the role model, that we need the one person that will be on a mixed team. And I don't know, but I will be like opening a bottle of champagne the day the top org picks up this person or even a couple of people and really makes this dream of a mixed team happen. That would be my biggest dream.
It's a nice dream. I like what you said though too. Just talk about like performance. I mean, we work with ULA as well, so we do have a lot of good resources. But something that I actually thought when the ESL Impact got announced, I was trying to think like, I think in the past even with the barriers that like women face, I think it takes like somebody who can take initiative and just get girls together, like make a team. And I felt like we also lacked that a bit, like people who can take initiative and just like band some people together and just stick together. I mean, now there's so many things in place that encourage that. But what I did when that first got announced was I created like a Discord. It's like something simple, but you can even take this idea and like expand on it. And basically what I was thinking is like, one, like it's nice when women have role models because they'll typically go to them, see what they're doing, and maybe implement that in their day-to-day. And basically what I did was I created like a place for them to meet each other, like introduce each other, find other women to play with, and I also created like channels that like teach them stuff. So like, what should you be doing? Just like typical tips and stuff like that. That's like information you can access anywhere if you know where to look for it. But I think when you're a brand new player in a game, it's like you don't know where to start. And I think having somebody who like knows what they're doing, who's been there, done that, just make it really easy for them, I think would speed up the improvement a lot quicker too. So that's like kind of what I was trying to do. But I think having just a lot of like information on just how to improve, not just like in-game, but out of game too. Like having a good structure, a good support system. Like CLG gives us a lot of resources. So there's nothing like missing. Like for example, if you don't like treat the root cause of your issues, if someone has terrible sleep, they show up, they can't pay attention, you're gonna have tons of mistakes. But if you can get that player with like a sleep specialist, which like we actually have had access to, like learn how to fix their sleep, how to have like consistent results. There's so many ways to boost your performance, so it's like cool having all those like resources available, and hopefully in the future more and more orgs like pick that up.
Yeah, exactly. And there is the ESL Impact Discord where an exchange can happen. I know that our team is working there towards sharing information, but if the orgs are listening, I think that we can probably always improve our collaboration there and share our knowledge. And here at the ERN conference. I have also obviously spoken to, listened to all the presentations, to all the panels, and there's a lot of people here in the Esports Research Network that are working on exactly that. The democratization of this performance knowledge, sleeping knowledge, and I think that is the future not only for the women but for diversification of the communities in general, so that everybody who is a very young, talented player, no matter in which game, they can have access to this knowledge and this way start what you did, have their Discord, then access this this platform where they can get the resources, and then they can try how far it takes them. Another thing that we have at EFG is clash.faceit.com that has just been announced this it's November, right? This November, and there is open groups, community clan groups that you can join, and literally anybody can join, and there teams like Navi and players like Nothing are a little bit like mentoring individual players in the matchmaking system, and there is money and Faceit points to win. That is also something where we aspire to, we do our best there, and we try to get more people doing, going. They can go there as individuals, and this way connect with other individuals, because somehow you have to create your team, right?
Yeah, sounds like a cool idea.
Yeah, so it's something where, from my HR perspective, always it's like, okay, if I look at a male normal Counter-Strike player, most of the time it's like, your job is to play video games, and that's it. And if you're good, that's it. And here it's when I listen to you, it's like, okay, I play, but I have to be the force to push through, to be the role model, to be like this outgoing person, to show my face, to show my personality, be open for everything. And it's something where we all know that in itself is in a esports field can be quite challenging. For a woman even further, because then the all toxicity topics come on to it. Maybe Jazzy, as you are also HR person, that's like we are also bringing them to burnout, mental health, and all of those topics. What can you do to help? Because it's a more demanding role, even further.
To prevent the burnout, you mean?
Yeah.
I think that, I think it's just like having the education to know when to take breaks,
Yeah.
I've actually, from personal account, lived in like a esports, like a gaming house, you guys call it. I've lived in one before, so I've seen like the intensity during like the playing, and again, not just the esports team, right? We're talking about just esports in terms of everything, like people working in esports as well. Really just forcing yourself to like put aside time in the calendar and just block it out. And then also the people on the other side making these demands from the workers to like be more respectful of when people need to be away and stuff like this. So I think it's education. Like sometimes people don't know that they can get away. It's okay to be away. So it's about well-being and looking after yourself, but I think it's about knowing that you can actually do that. So maybe it's like more like a top-down type of message, like, to emphasize continuously that, hey, look, guys, everyone's working very hard. And we have this initiative in-house. It's called Pulse Check, just to make sure it's like an email that gets sent out to all the employees in EFG Group. And kind of making sure people are okay. If you're not, hey, would you raise something to us and maybe see how we can help? That's one of the initiatives that I know about that we are doing. I got an email, but I didn't say anything.
That's very interesting. That maybe because a lot of us are gamers, we are much more flexible with especially post-corona, topics like flexible working times. People have to put family first. Somebody like me, I can work 40 hours, but I don't have to work exactly from 9 to 5 or something like that.
Get the work done. We're very results-oriented organization, so we're not gonna see, oh, when is Julia gonna clock in at 8 o'clock? Oh, she's 1 minute late. We're not gonna do that. We want to see what's the result you generate out of that.
Yeah, and we have also the employee assistance program. People can get
counseling, sort of, like, get advice on those sort of things. If you feel like it's a difficult time or mental, I know there are some staff who feel the burnout, right? And then being able to approach your superior or manager to like seek help, and of course then HR comes in and try to do our thing, right?
And our employees don't even have to do that if they don't have for some reason they don't want to speak to their managers. They can anonymously go to this.
Any of the HR people, and I have a lot of that coming to me. I hold a lot of burden of the, like the people sharing how they feel, all this kind of thing. So it's about kind of like using ourselves as an example or giving them advice on, hey, take a break, go on holiday, stuff like this. We have that kind of work environment in ESL Facebook group, so I really appreciate that part. And I kind of use that as part of my pitch when I talk to candidates as well, where we don't really look at what time you come in and whatnot. So I think people will appreciate that during work from home. Right?
And it would not work, or everybody at EFG and all the esports organizations, they know that if you are working events towards this goal of running a Rio major, Intel Extreme Masters Rio major or something like that, you have to sleep it out afterwards. You can't go work towards an event at the event and then after the event you go back to the office or what? Like, that's not possible. That's not in the human capacity.
Yeah, exactly. So we have those kind of flexibility at work, and it seems to work. Like no one's. Everyone seems to be knowing where they should come in, where they should take a rest. But at times, definitely the younger people, they are so hyperactive. They want to contribute. They're very passionate. That's why we come in and tell them, hey, look, just take the rest, right? So that's what I can say. I mean, that's what we are currently doing. Maybe we can do more, making it more like obvious and make it more like a consistent message. More emphasizing on that, maybe would help more. Yeah.
Yeah, I think also to add to that too, from like a player perspective, I think just in esports in general, a lot of people talk about like, if you're not working like the whole day, like you don't really want it. And I feel like the message that people who
the hustler
don't really know what they're talking about,
culture thing, like
it's a bit of a culture thing, like the grind mentality. And I think that from like I have a ridiculous amount of hours in Counter-Strike. Like I have like literally 14,000 like logged in Counter-Strike alone, and
14,000.
Yeah, and the thing is if I didn't take breaks, I would have probably quit already. Like I probably wouldn't have made it. And I think that paying attention to how you're using your time, using it like effectively. I think that just like grinding the game, one is like a bit of a waste of time if you're doing it like all day, every day, not giving yourself breaks, because how I see things like after playing for so long is like, what are you gaining from that time? I think understanding like what you're getting from like kind of how you're talking about results, right? You don't care when they show up. You just care about like the aftermath, if I understood correctly. Yeah. And I think it's the same thing with just, that's something I'm really big on right now, after like spending so much time like trying to improve myself, is how I use my time. And I think that is like, if you can be good with understanding how to use your time, I think it's a very powerful like tool. Knowing like when to take breaks. I mean, you're not a machine, right? We're not robots, we're humans. And we also don't work very well when we're completely like fried. So I think that for the like thinking about the big picture long term, rather than just like going really hardcore for like a small period of time, you can't keep that up. But doing something that's sustainable is a lot easier to maintain. It's also going to get you further in the long run. So I think that, like, for example, like right now my routine is like I don't pug a ton, but that's also because I've already played the game a lot, that pugging isn't going to give me the most of my time. It's still good to do. It's good to just enjoy the game as well. But the most that I'll get from my time is like observing the game, like studying the game, and also I do a lot of like mental notes, like I watch my games back, or I do a lot of different stuff depending on what I need in the time, but I try to like study the game more to become more like smart in the game. And outside of that, I just train my mechanics. So it's like I've created like a system right now that I think serves me really well, but I'm like most of the time I spend, I try to use it very efficiently and make it like an effective time rather than like, I'm gonna just grind the game for 12 hours today, like just doing like one thing the whole day. I don't think it's gonna get me very far personally where I am right now in my career. And I think that just addressing like burnout, just knowing when to like take a break is sometimes hard. Like you don't actually know until maybe you're completely like exhausted, but
can I just also say something today?
Yeah.
It's like sometimes it's so much like behavior, like scrolling, not knowing why I'm scrolling. I'm just I mean, I've stopped that habit. That's why I just deleted the social media. But I think it's got something to do with that as well. Like for example, we've now coming into EFG. With the work emails, sometimes I find that after, let's say yesterday, went back like so late after the amazing dinner, and I was just like trying to refresh. I was like, what am I doing? Like, you know, my stakeholders in Asia, they're like asleep. They're not sending me emails, but I'm still like unconsciously just doing that. At the same time, when you play a game, you don't just play one. Like sometimes it's a bit like an addiction thing. At least for me, I don't play professionally, but then I feel like gamers tend to keep going, right? Let's say I have a winning streak. Yeah, I have a winning streak. I will keep going.
Everybody knows this one
Yeah.
game when it's already 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3
Yeah.
a.m. You actually know that you should be sleeping now because you already know you're already fried. But for some reason, when just one on the team says, "Let's do another one," and you're like, "Okay," and then maybe you fall asleep on the table, and
You're like,
"Oh,
I shouldn't have played that.
I shouldn't have played this one."
Yeah.
That's something where I cannot stop at a loss.
Exactly.
It's terrible.
You have to recoup it back.
Yeah,
so
it's a terrible process. But it's, Mounira, that's something where this idea where you're thinking about your training, and that's something which is so inspiring. It reminds me of Grubby, probably. Who knows Grubby?
You mean Manuel Schenkhuisen? Sorry, couldn't resist.
So he was a Warcraft 3 player, and so most of his time was like scouting, watching videos of other players, creating strategies and all of that. And it was in the end something like I just played to keep my fingers warm.
Yeah.
That was the
I'm
only
cold.
thing.
I start Warcraft 3 because I don't have a radiator, so I play.
Yeah, and I was lucky to see his black book of all the strategies, and they were so thorough. And that's the fascinating part where you were saying, okay, in the end, you mastered the game, and every hour you're doing more.
Still trying to.
Yeah, but it's this graph where
Yeah.
every minute you put
Yeah.
into it is giving you less return.
Yeah.
But understanding the game or
Yeah.
understanding your opponent, where he or she is moving, and we are, like, as I said, I cannot stop at a loss. People are doing similar things, like I'm always peaking and all of that, and that's quite fascinating to observe. And is that something where your environment at your team supports you with that, or are they actually saying, okay, you should do more hours in?
So I think that I mean I'm one of the leaders of the team, so I'm part of the main, like my coach as well. We're creating the culture of the team. I think we have a pretty good system going, but I think that I understand pretty well like where I need to be improving and setting my time. I think that like my team trusts me to know like what I need to be doing. I still take feedback, of course, but usually I like constantly have a goal that I'm working on, and how I see it, I mean, even if it's not game sense, if it's working on mechanics are also very important. But I guess the biggest thing is like spending your time with, like going into it with an intent, like not just I think autopilot is where you're wasting like the most of your time. Like you're just autopilot, like you're not really doing anything. I mean, I think that warming up is always good, pugging is always good, but I think like in the the more you play, the more I think you just have to be very, just like
Conscious.
conscious with like how you're spending your time.
Yeah.
And I think it doesn't always have to be strategy, but it can also be mechanics. For example, even now, I'm still working on my mechanics. I'm trying to improve my crosshair placement so that, like right now, I'm IGLing, and so it's a bit harder to put resources into my aim and stuff. And I do have like pretty good mechanics. It's not my strongest suit, but it's something I'm good at. But if I'm IGLing, there's only so many things I can focus on at once. And so right now, kind of a goal of mine is to work on it enough to the point where it becomes second nature. So it doesn't actually require much effort at all. So when I go to start calling and I'm thinking a lot about the game, I'm instinctively putting my crosshair where it needs to be. And that's something I'm still working on, and I've noticed like improvement. So I think it's just going about things with intention, and I think that is a skill that you can apply to anything in life. If you're trying to improve in something, it's just, I think if you know what to fix and you have an idea of how to fix it, it's honestly very like freeing, that feeling. I think a really awful feeling is when you know you suck at something and you don't know how to fix it. And I think, yeah, just like having game plans in place to improve yourself. I think that my team like trusts me, and I do feel like I have a good system. I mean, I have like Ula right there. I go to her when I'm like stuck on something. We actually came up with an idea very recently too, since I'm like new into calling. I just like put too much on my plate and I get like overwhelmed, and we created like a system where like my coach and I and one of the players over there, we created kind of like a captain's corner, and it's basically like spreading out the workload of like the brain, I guess, behind the team. And even like high level teams do this too, where they have like secondary callers, stuff like that, and it kind of takes a bit of the weight off of just the leader. So by doing that, it kind of frees me up to also be able to perform as an individual more consistently. So yeah, I think just like also having a really good backing, having like a good coach, good teammates. My teammates are really awesome. They all have good personalities and they're easy to work with. And I think just having like a good backing helps a lot too.
That sounds fascinating. So I probably could talk with you for hours about how to create teams, how to get this fit with the teams together, and in the end, that's the part where I mean, in-game leader is something which is highly demanding, and we all know they are not with the most kills and all of that, because it's that demanding, and that's something which is quite fascinating. But yeah. Concerning time, we have still one elephant in the room. Environmental sustainability. It's a topic for me that's quite close to my heart, because it's something where esports as a digital tool or a digital industry is per definition not environmental friendly. We have the energy consumption, we have, think about what the processors and all of that technology. That's something where I know ESL or EFG is doing a lot. But again, Mounira, it's something where, is that something which tackles you at some point, or you're thinking about that?
If I'm being honest, not really. I think I do think about the environment in other ways, not necessarily like when I'm gaming. I think about it more when I'm like going to throw something out, or if I have something I don't really want anymore. Like we basically stockpiled a bunch of like peripherals that we don't use anymore, and we're like, we'll just like go donate it or do something with it. That's not like throwing it out and wasting it. That's more where I start thinking about the environment, and not as much when I'm like playing. It's just, I feel like there's only so many things you can like think about at once, and it's probably not really a big concern of mine when I'm actually gaming. But I think that you brought up like a good point with, I mean, technology, it all takes power, but I mean, that's not really something I'm very, I don't have a lot of knowledge on it, so I feel like I wouldn't do much justice speaking on it. But yeah, it's still an interesting like topic to think about and how you would tackle that.
And so thank you for your honesty. I mean, you are probably with 99% of all esports player about the topic, but it's something where recently European Parliament passed a resolution where they not only said, okay, esports, do something with your environmental issue, but that esports can be a way to educate people, to empower people. So that's a topic where you're starting some projects, and what is the scope?
Yeah. Thank you so much for playing this ball, because it's tremendously important to me. It's my everyday job to have always the environmental agenda in mind, and my strategy is we have our annual reporting, general business reporting, and I'm responsible for the non-financial part. And what I'm trying to build is on the basis of the previous reports and of based on our previous work. I have been creating a strategy for over 2 years now, and before that Modern Times Group had already established a bunch of actions, and I have a list basically of some 60 about 60, maybe some more actions that I want to execute. It has a business plan behind it. There is a budget behind it to execute this change management. And the change management we have aligned with an external agency who are experts in telling organizations what is it that you have to do, what are the low-hanging fruits to get rid of the fossils, and so on and so forth. So I'm executing on it. A great example is that I really just hit up the city of Katowice with our team, and we said where our offices and warehouses are in Katowice, we would like to have the opportunity to work with leased electric cars, but we cannot load them anywhere there when there's no station. And just by asking, it turns out that it's no problem for them to provide us with a loading station from in 2023. We are still talking, but this is my last status quo from speaking with them like 2 weeks ago. Then, for instance, that we don't have a lot of cars. We actually have only a couple of cars, and almost all of them are in Katowice because we do a lot of our logistics from there. And then you can get rid of your fossil-driven cars and instead have electrics. There's a possibility to check on your LED lighting and exchange it for better LED lighting. Of course, if it's not LED at all, then it's pretty obvious that you should go for LED instead. One really cool thing is that we are partners with DHL. We are not only clients at DHL for our logistics, but they are also our brand partner, and they are equipped with great possibilities to have a non-fossil based logistics. And then there's a lot of actions where you think, oh, that's boring, talking to procurement and going through the plan and making changes. But it's super exciting for me. For instance, I never knew how exactly all the stage fireworks and the boom effects and everything that you see on screen when you watch it, when you're watching an event on Twitch, like how much TNT is like exploding there, and what is this fog, and what are these like glistening things there. I didn't know all of that, but I did procurement workshops with our DLP services and asked them, okay, how much CO2 is this, how much is this, how much is this, and then we say, what can we do next year? Like, can we have, instead of a CO2 fog machine, have an electric fog machine and things like that? And I'm really like this bookworm, then writing it down in my software. I have a software that gives me directions where I can put the actions in, and it reminds me to check back in on them. And it also, you can also enter like, I want to have an 8% reduction path, and then it helps you to stay on track with your budget and with the actions that you have entered. And and then the next logical step is that these actions, they are already the result of my hard work and our team's, all of the workshops' hard work. This is not me doing it. This is actually people from the events team, procurement team, and saying, oh, we are giving the players these packages and there's like a mug in there and the players don't even, like, they don't want the mug. Maybe we give them something more sustainable or nothing at all, or we like ask them first what do they want, or somebody is coming to you and saying, oh, by the way, I eliminated all the food waste at this and this event because now we found we can take the rest home to our families and we can also donate some of this. So there's a lot of the ideas coming from our employees. They know that I'm in charge and they're coming to me with all their great ideas and the things that they're already doing. And so I'm having this list. This list gets published in the next non-financial report next year when the report has to go online. And then everybody from the esports industry can take my, the report, basically have a look at, or whoever's interested can also always get in touch with me and ask me questions. And the list is on the report, and then people can have a look and see, oh, I'm also an esports organization, so I don't have to do all the legwork and find out what actions are logical for an events business like this esports business, but they can use my my research as a resource, and that is the whole point. And if everybody is doing a few things and talking about it, that is actually important. I have learned that in my sustainability classes that I actually had to go to learn all these things. It is really cool if you ask the right questions. Like, you don't necessarily have to have an environmental change management manager at your company, but if you go to a venue and you ask them, so do we have to have these mugs here? Can we have, like, we bring our own cups and things like that, just the simplest things. If you talk to people about it, you will be amazed about all the input that you get. I was even talking to a location and they were like, nobody asked us before, but we can actually change this, this, and this. Other companies are already asking us if we can provide like a recycling system or things like that. And really, I cannot pride myself with all this. I'm just pulling the strings, bringing it all together. But it's so cool that we're here in Jönköping, where DreamHack has basically already created this blueprint that I have learned from. DreamHack has a recycling activity with Pantamera. They are, with the fans at the festivals, they are collecting the plastics, bringing them so that can be recycled, and the money that comes from the bottles is given to charity. And I think by doing it over the course of a couple of years, like every 4 years, every year for like 4 years or something, they have already donated like 30,000 euros from collecting plastics. And if we can do it in esports, then other events that have nothing to do with esports, like music events or whatever, they could do the same. And
yeah, that's the interesting part where I find it always fascinating that what happens in esports can easily be translated to other fields and other aspects, and that's something where it is a grind. It sounds like a grind, and it's something where we are moving into the right direction, and next part is educating people, getting that knowledge. I mean, as you said, most of the things, I'm not also an expert about that, but the easy ideas or the easy fixes are the first steps, and that's something we need to achieve. And that's quite fascinating to see these approaches and other organizations picking up. I still love FlyQuest, with their initiatives and all of that. What was that like? For every kill, they plant a tree and all of that. But it's
A lot of
something where,
trees.
yeah, it's something where. So it's League of Legends, so not that many kills.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
You would already have a whole forest.
Yeah, I mean, they should do that with CS. They'll plant a lot of trees. So,
Yeah.
good idea.
So something for CLG, maybe. Okay, so
Thank you.
I would say a short round of questions. Who has questions?
Yeah, no.
Our other sustainability expert.
Thank you for the great panel discussion that was also focusing on aspects I haven't heard on any panel discussion before. And just also summarizing it in the very beginning helps the discussion to go deeper. And that's what you did in the beginning, so thank you. You always... also, during the whole conference, we say the final goal is are mixed teams. And as you also said, we need to be more patient about the development, of course. But is there any perspective from the impact perspective in the future, how to get it to mixed teams? So are there any structural, infrastructural ideas how we can get there?
One thing that we are talking about with the teams internally through our connection with the Louvre teams, for instance, is that we are talking to them and we are getting it's not a policy that people have to sign or something, but a lot of the teams have already uttered this goal themselves, that they don't want to have Team A and Team B for the sake now of having the women's team, and the women's team is participating in Impact, but they are mixing the teams up already in training. Some of the teams even have written publicly about how this is going about and what their goals are for that, and they are mixing individuals from time to time or on a certain schedule or something for the sake of training, but also for this goal that that this can happen one day. Like I have understood this from what Mounira so beautifully summed up here. I'm so glad that she is also trying to play with the best of the best and not just in a bubble. It obviously doesn't make any sense. And I'm very optimistic because teams have said things like that in the direction that they are already mixing, playing together, and not just having men's and women's teams in separate bubbles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I also see a change there. Makes hope. Thanks.
So we all know that Katowice is coming, and we know that there will be like a huge event around the ESL Impact. Do you guys also plan to have any like mixed teams show match, for example, like the top tier male teams and the top tier female teams mixed up together, just to do like maybe just an idea, something?
I could be a guinea pig.
Okay, just a thought.
Sorry, you what?
I said I could be a guinea pig. Like,
Yeah, that sounds like something cool to be done at a DreamHack festival. We have done the Ghost Para team mixed up with other people playing together, right? To show people what it's like to be playing with a handicap of sorts. And I think that that's actually a great idea, as long as it's two mixed teams from how many organizations do you need to do that? Like two? Maybe people are twittering at us right now.
Maybe you could take a pull like a survey or poll like top team female, like that you just like mixed up together, like top tier together. That would be kind of cool.
Yeah,
just
like
an
a
idea.
survey where two dream teams
Yeah,
Make your dream.
but like
Wow.
mixed one.
Oh yeah.
We're getting some
have
good
to-
ideas going.
That's a great idea. I'm gonna bring that up.
Yep.
The Ula show match.
I can coach.
You can, yeah, and you will coach for free, right? Oh, nice.
Okay, already clear what we are doing, so sounds good.
Sounds good. See you guys then.
Let's make it
I'll be
happen,
there.
Julia.
Right here.
Oh.
Question to Mounira, according to CLG, because I think that not only implementing like women into teams and into the player base is important, but also exchange with like I don't know how to call it, the open scene or something, mixed scene, is also important. Is there any exchange between your female team at CLG and the male pros? Are you like doing some events where you can get in contact with the others, so it's getting more normal that women are also around, you know what I mean? Not to be offensive.
Like, do we play against? That's your question, right? If we
Yeah,
play against?
not only on the player base, but also other options, other opportunities to get in contact.
Yeah, I guess there's like a few answers to that. One thing we do actually, at the end of the day, how skilled you are as a team is very important to the practice you're going to get. If we're not good enough to scrim certain teams, scrim is like a practice, then they're not going to play us, but we do play good CS, we play structured, and a lot of teams do like practicing us. We've played teams above our skill level many times over, and they continue to practice with us, which shows that they see us as valuable training partners. Not only that, but by going into open tournaments, this is where I would advise women in general, or anyone, by not just practicing against your own level, but trying to push yourself to higher levels. By competing in open tournaments, that's forcing players to play against us, whether they like it or not. So it's a good way to get that experience playing against premier teams, which is like the level under pro. Playing against teams like that is a really good experience for us, and it's actually a good gauge for if you can hang or not. And we have had a lot of good games against higher level players, and I think that alone in experience is good, but also helps you get better and see where your flaws are. If you're not playing teams that are better than you, they're not going to push you the same way. They're not going to see like where the gaps in your play are as easily. So, I mean, we constantly play against the mixed Counter-Strike. It's our main practice. It's our main matches. We play in a mixed league. So we get tons of experience by playing in that, and it helps us a lot to develop and grow as a team too. And if we get lucky enough, we're going to try to play like today or tomorrow against some European teams, get like experience against different regions is good too. So I think to answer your question, that, and I've also played in like cash cups, like random things with like mixed players, like friends of mine, and those are always fun too. So I've had experience playing with a mixed team just for the fun of it as well, and usually those go pretty well. I've made it like pretty far in some of them, depending on like what it is. So yeah, I think that's something that you could do too. Let's say you're on a women's team, but you have a weekend off or something. You could easily just form a mixed team and go play in a cup for fun, and that's good experience too. It's also just I think it's just fun to do different stuff like that too.
And it's important for representatives, so you show that there are women also around, I think.
Yeah.
But thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so awesome. Thank you for that. And I probably could listen to you all the time. So maybe you could do a podcast or something.
Yeah.
So
do some
thank
podcasts.
you. Yeah.
Do some podcasts in the future.
Okay. Just send me a mail, and I will be following you directly. Okay. Thank you very much. It was a super interesting talk and panel, and it shows how interesting the topic is, or general those topics are. And yeah. Again, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I can't wet
Yeah, so we are nearly close to finish. We will just do a few words from Brian and me. And but yeah, first of all, thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, awesome. So
Off the stage.
I try to be polite. So you. So you see, I struggled a bit. So apologies for that.
Well, the good news is when we said final speaker, it's just me and him wrapping this up, people. So, look, thank you very, very much for attending the first in-person Esports Research Network Conference. So there's a lot of people I need to thank right now. And I think I'm going to start with the most important ones, which is not the sponsors, but Philippa and Sarah outside. Can you give a round of applause for them? They were fantastic. They also had to deal with me. So our sponsors, of course, EFG, ESL Facebook Group, and hashtag GG for all, because it's so important for sustainability. Destination Jönköping, Jönköping Municipality, Esport United, and Ubisoft. So that's our sponsors. We also want to thank the team that did the streaming, which was Prince and Matilda and Laura, and Ben, who did the website, has been taking pictures all the time. And Ben, really, thank you for putting up with all my ridiculous demands at every single minute. So, and also Justice, our student team, Jönköping University student team in competitive esports. Can you please give them a round of applause? Then, of course, all the boards, the organizing committee, the science committee, the people who reviewed, the speakers, the panelists, everyone who didn't annoy me with ridiculous requests, but everyone who did too, I didn't mind. Okay, the reviewers, Professor Leona Acton-Hagen of the Media Management Transformation Center, who